Good morning. Today we're going to be reviewing Chapter 3 for our test tomorrow. Question 1. For numbers 1a through 1d, you're going to choose yes or no to indicate whether the situation can be represented by a negative number. So 1a, Sherry lost 100 pounds or 100 points answering a question. So if she's lost it, then it's going to be negative, right? The next one says, the peak of a mountain is 2,000 feet above sea level. Well, if it's above sea level, it's not going to be negative. If it were below sea level, then it would be negative. Young paid $25 for a parking ticket. Well, if you're paying for the parking ticket, then it's coming out of your account, so it's going to be, a negative amount. So yes, that would be a negative number because it's minus $25 coming out of your account. The last one is a puppy gained 3 pounds. Well, if he's gaining pounds, then he's going in the positive direction and not the negative direction. Next, the low weekday temperatures for a city are shown. So Monday was negative 5 degrees Fahrenheit, Tuesday was negative 3 degrees, Wednesday was 2 degrees Fahrenheit, Thursday was negative 7 degrees, Friday was 3 degrees Fahrenheit. So part A says, using the information in the table, order the temperatures from the lowest to the highest. So if I'm doing that, then that means I'm going to have negative 7, then negative 5, then negative 3, then 2, and then 3. Remember, the furthest away from 0 is going to be the smallest number, so that's going to be negative 7. Part B, explain how to use a vertical number line to determine the order. Well, you can graph the temperatures on a vertical number line, and then you can label the points Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And then you can list the points in order and see how they appear from bottom to top on the number line, which is essentially this way, but just you would do it on a vertical line instead. For numbers 3a to 3e, you're going to choose yes or no to indicate whether the number is between negative 1 and negative 2. So we have negative 4/5. And again, you could have just divided, right? 4 divided by 5. But you can also look at it, and you know that if we're looking at a number between negative 1 and negative 2, 4/5 is less than a 1, right? So it's definitely not going to be between 1 and 2. 1 and 2/3, however, is positive, right? So it's completely on the other side of the number line. So again, that's going to be no. Now negative 1.3, that is a 1, right? 0.3, so it's not quite negative 2, but not less than negative 1. So that one is going to be between negative 1 and negative 2. Negative 1 and 1/4, same thing. It's a 1 and 1/4, so it's not quite 2, but definitely more than negative 1. And then negative 2 and 1/10. So now we're going beyond negative 2. So that one is going to be a no. Compare negative 1/5 and negative 0.09. Use the numbers and words to explain your answer. Well, if you're going to compare them, you can say that negative 1/5 is greater than 0.9, and the possible explanations can be that negative 1/5 is the same thing as 2/10, and negative 9 is the same thing as 9/10. So 2/10 is greater than 9/10, or negative 1/5 is going to be greater than 0.9. Another thing you could do is you could divide 1 divided by 5, right? And then you can look at the decimal points and you can kind of compare them that way. Number 5. Gendry said that absolute value of 3 equals the absolute value of negative 3. Is she correct? Use a number line and words to support your answer. Yes, she is correct. The possible explanation is the absolute value is the distance from 0. So on the number line, 3 and negative 3 are both 3 units. So here's my 0. Negative 3 is 3 units away, and 3 is 3 units away. So they are both 3. They're both 3 units away from 0. Number 6, write a value in the order from least to greatest. So we have the absolute value of negative 4, which is 4. We have the absolute value of 2, which is 2. The absolute value of negative 12, which is 12. And we have the absolute value of 8, which is 8. So if I'm going from least to greatest, this is my smallest number. Then it goes to 4. and then it goes to 8, and then it goes to the negative 12. But you need to write them in the order that they are. So it's going to be 2, absolute value of 2, absolute value of negative 4, absolute value of 8, absolute value of negative 12. Now, for the numbers 7a through 7d, you're going to answer true or false for each statement. The x-coordinate of any point on the y-axis is 0. And the answer to that is true. Point D, negative 2, 1, is to the left of the axis and below the y-axis. So again, if you're going to do this, you can just plot it. So negative 2 is going to go this way. Negative 2, positive 1. And remember, this is my y and this is my x. So it says it's to the left of the y-axis, which it is. And it says it's below the x-axis. That is not true because it is above the x-axis. The point where the axis intersects the origin, well, that's right here, right? Whoops. That is true. So the point the axis intersects is the origin. So that's this right here. And that's where it intersects. That's 0, right? And then it says if both the x and y coordinates are positive, the point is to the right of the y-axis and below the x-axis. That is not true because if they are both positive, we're going to go over and up for positive. This is the quadrant. And that is to the right, but it is above and not below. So the answer is false. Mia's house is located at point 3, 4 on a coordinate plane. The location of Keisha's house is the reflection of the location of Mia's house across the y-axis. In what quadrant is Keisha's house in? So I personally just prefer to actually just plot it out. So Mia's house is located at 3 and 4. So I'm going to go over to 3 and I'm going to go up to 4. There's Mia's. The location of Keisha's house is a reflection of location across the y-axis. So it's going to be across this axis. So it's going to be right over here. So it's going to be over negative 3 and up positive 4. Okay. In what quadrant is Keisha's house? So it's going to be in this quadrant right here, which is quadrant 2. Right? The next one is, let me erase this. Points A, which is 3, 8, and point B, which is negative 4, 8, are located on the coordinate plane. Graph the pair of points and then find the distance between them. Use the numbers and words to explain your answers. So 3 and 8. So I'm going to go over to 3 and I'm going to go up to 8. So there's my point A. And then for point B, I'm going to go negative 4, 8. So I'm going to go over negative 4 and I'm going to go up to 8. Now they want us to tell the distance between them. All we have to do is just count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So let me do that again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it is 7 units. Okay. So I used absolute value to find the horizon line from each point, and then I rounded up the sum distance A is 3 units, and the distance from B is 4 units, and 3 plus 4 is 7 units, or you can simply plot them and count them away. Okay, number 10. The map shows the location of J of Jose's house and location F of the football field. Jose is going to go to Terrell's house, and then the two of them are going to go up to the football field for practice. So there's the football field, and there's Joe's house. Terrell's house is located at point T, the reflection of point J across the y-axis. What are the coordinates? So if it's J, and it's the reflection point across the y-axis, here's my y-axis, then that means this is going to be in the exact same spot, but in this quadrant. So that means I'm going to go over, it looks like they've gone negative 6, and this is 8. So the reflection is going to be over to 6 and up to 8. So that is going to be the point right there of Terrell's house. Let me move this down. So T is going to be 6, 8, which we already have right here, right? 6, this is over 6, comma 8. And then J, we already did that. That's negative 6, 8. And then F, which is over here, is it's all the way over to 6, and then it's down -5. Okay, so there's your answer. Part B says, if each unit on the map represents one block, what is the distance from Terrell traveled from the football field, and what is the distance Jose traveled to the football field? Use numbers and words to explain your answer. Let me erase this to clean it up a little bit. So for me, it's easier to just plot the points. Again, let me finish cleaning this up. So if I'm going to plot the point, I just count them. So if I'm going from Terrell's house to the football field, I'm 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So we're 13 blocks away. And then if I'm going from Jose's house to the football field, well, I can go over to Terrell's, and then I can add the 13, right? So if I go over to Terrell's, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So if I take the 12 plus the 13, then I get 25. So Terrell traveled 13 blocks and Jose traveled 25 blocks. Now, for number 11A through 11D, you're going to choose yes or no to indicate whether the situation could be represented by an integer like +3. A football team gains 3 yards. Well, if you're gaining 3 yards, then you're adding, which would be a +3. If a golfer's score is over par, then it's going to be positive because you're going over it. A student answers a 3-point question correctly, you're going to get +3. And a cat loses 3 pounds. Well, if you're losing 3 pounds, that's actually -3. So that is not going to be represented with a positive. All right, number 12. Jason used a map to record the elevations of 5 locations. So here's his locations and there's the elevations. Jason wrote the elevations in order from the lowest to the highest. Is Jason correct? Use words and numbers to explain why or why not if Jason is incorrect in what the order should be. So he said -3, 5, 8, -18, -20. Oh, yeah. See, he's not going to be correct because remember, our negatives are definitely going to be the lower numbers, and he's kind of got negatives and positive mixed up in here, right? So he is not correct. It appears that he put the elevations in order from the absolute value, but the real order should have been -20, -18, -3, 5, and 8. It is the right order if they were absolute values, but these aren't absolute values. They don't have the little absolute sign next to them. For numbers 13A and 13 through 13D, select true or false for each statement. 1/5 is between 0 and 1. That's true, right? Because it's in between. -2 and 2/3 is between 1 and 2. It's actually over -2, right? So that's false. -3/5 is between 3, or -3 and 5/8 is between -3 and -4. Yes, because it's not over 4 and it's not under 3, so it's in between. 4 3/4 is between 3 and 4. And 4 3/4 is actually more than 4, so it's not going to be in between, so that is false. Now here we're going to choose which one is greater than or less than or equal to. My suggestion is that you actually turn them into decimals before you decide, so that it's easier to compare the two. So 3/4 is, let me get my pen, the same thing as saying 3 divided by 4, put my decimal, 4 can't go into 3, so I put my decimal there, add a 0, 4 can go into 30, 7 times, which is 28, I subtract, I get 2, I add a 0, I bring it down, 4 goes into that 5 times, and it goes in equally. So 3/4 is the same thing as 0.75, and if we have 0.25 and 0.75, then we know that oops, it's messing up, hold on. We know that 0.75 is going to be a larger than 0.25. Moving on, so now I have 1/3 and 0.325 or 325 thousandths. So again, I'm going to divide because it's just the easier way to do it. Let me give myself some room here. So 1 divided by 3. 1 divided by 3. Put my 3 can't go into 1, so I'm going to make this be 10. Put my decimal. 3 goes into 10 3 times. 3 times 3 is 9. I subtract. I get 1 left over. I add another 0. Bring it down. I get another 3. So this side is going to be 0.33. And this is 3.2, right? So this is going to have the larger number, right? So it's going to be 1/3 is greater than 0.325. Now looking at this next one, again, I'm going to convert it to a decimal. So I'm going to have 2 point, and then we got to figure out what 7/8 is. So that is 7 divided by 8. Put my decimal. 8 goes into 70. Goes in 8 times, and oops, I put that into the wrong spot, didn't I? That is a very different number. 8 can't go into 7. So we're going to make sure that we line it up. And 8 times 8 is 64. When I subtract that, I can't take 0 from that, right? So it's going to be 6. I borrow from there. Add another 0. So now I have 8 going into 60. Make sure I put my decimal there. And 8 goes into 60 7 times. 7 times 8 is 56. And when I subtract, I can't take that, so I get a 4. Change that to a 5. I get a 0, and that goes in. 8 goes into 40, 5 times evenly, 40 with nothing left over. So this side is 2.875. So this right here is 2.875. And 2.875, 2.875. Look at that. They are equal. Oops. Wrong one. They are equal. You saw that answer. All right. And then the last one, we already did 3/4, and we know that 3/4 is 0.75, and you should all know that a half is 0.50, so that's kind of an easy giveaway. That one is 3/4 is less than 1/2. Moving over to number 15, it asks you to graph 4 and -4 on the number line. So here's my thing. So I'm going to graph -4, and I'm going to graph 4 on the number line. So there's my 4, and there's my -4. Tyler says that both 4 and -4 have an absolute value of 4. Is Tyler correct? Use the number line and words to explain your answer. And he is correct, because -4 is 4 away from 0, and +4 is 4 away from 0. Next question. Lindsay and Will have an online account for buying music. Lindsay's account balance is -20, and Will's account balance is -15. Express each account balance as a debt and explain whose debt is greater. So Lindsay, she owes $20, right? So she's actually went under in her account. Will also went under his account, but he only went under $15. So Lindsay's debt is $20, and Will's debt is $15. So Lindsay's debt's greater because she owes $20, whereas he owes $15. 20 is further away from 0, so it's a much greater debt. Don't ever want your accounts to go below. I hope they don't. All right. Number 17. Explain how to graph points A, B, and C on a coordinate plane, and then explain how to graph points D so that A, B, C, and D is a square. You might want to use the paper that I gave you guys, the one that you can actually, physically graph them on. I'll try and do it on this one. So if I go over, let's say -3, so 1, 2, 3, -3 and 0, put that right there. And then it's 0 and 0, so I'm going to put it right there. And then it's 0 and -3, so we're going to say right there. And then you have to, graph this little reflection one right here. So this is going to be -3. So it's going to be -3, -3, right? So basically, I just did it for you in the graph, but here's kind of the written words for you to write down. But if you just start at the origin when you're doing these, you can find this one because it's the reflection of this last one to make it that full square, right? All right, our final one, and you can pause me right now and kind of write it down so that you have it in words. But essentially, I just did in words what it says there, but I did it with a visual. Number 18, our final one before we test. Point A, which is 2 and -3, is reflected across the x-axis to point B. Point B is reflected across the y-axis to point C. What are the coordinates of point C? And use words to explain your answer. So again,